Hello guys, and welcome to a new Steel Division video today by me, Vulcan. Today I have for you the Battlegroup preview for the Demi-Brigade SAS, which is one of the new divisions in the Back to Hell DLC. Now before I move on, I've got to say that the stats and balance are subject to change since this was recorded in the pre-release build, and therefore I will be doing a Battlegroup overview later down the line in order to show you guys how I think the division should be built. But for now, we're just going to be doing the preview where I run through all the units nice and quick and we point out the more notable ones and have a little bit of a talk about the division itself. So we'll start in the Recon tab, but before we select the FFI Saboteurs here, I just want to say the Demi-Brigade SAS is basically a matchup or mix-up, of the FFI, which is the French Forces of the Interior, and the French SAS, so that's really cool. Then you have later on in Phase C American units showing up to claim all the glory. So yeah, that's kind of how the division works throughout, and you'll start to see that even in the Recon tab. So the first unit that we have in the Recon tab is the FFI Saboteurs. These guys have 10 HE at close range. They also have TNT, which allows them to absolutely annihilate infantry squads that come across them. Most of the time you're going to have both the FFI Saboteurs and the Masquizards on return fire, and then if they get found, they will absolutely annihilate enemy infantry squads. You could potentially purposely put them into buildings that they are going to be found in, and then just have them ambush the enemy, and that's really how these units work. And you do get a lot of availability, and they're relatively cheap as well. So this will be a lot of your Phase A infantry coming out of your Recon tab. So the FFI Saboteurs are fantastic. They come in the FFI Traction, which is an awesome car that they've modelled and added to the game. Really like it. And then we have the Masquizards, which are very cool as well. But they have 20 HE at 100 meter range, which is absolutely insane. Just be careful that the Kar 98 don't give you away at 300 meter range. Make sure you have them on return fire, or you turn off the car entirely. There are two ways to do that. So these come in the DMA. A nice stolen DMA there with FFI markings. It looks very cool indeed. Let's move on to the Sidecar here. So this Sidecar is just a stolen BMW bike with the resistance fighters on it, so not too much to talk about there. But then we have this FFI Panhard, which is obviously a stolen Panhard. A lot of the vehicles in this division in the early phases are all stolen from the Germans. But the interesting thing about this one is it's actually cheaper than other German equivalents. So a normal Panhard would be like 65 points in another division, whereas in the French division it's actually relatively cheap. So I feel like this might be actually a decent choice, and you might see this played more often than in the German divisions themselves. Then we have the SAS Scouts arriving. These guys are very similar to scout squads that you find in the 6th Airborne and other airborne divisions like the SSB and stuff. So yeah, the SAS Scouts, they are okay, but just sort of your standard 25 point high veteran scout squads. Then we have the SAS Sniper. This is a bit more cool. This guy is a lone sniper. Very awesome unit. However, it is probably very vulnerable. If it gets hit by anything, it will just die and you lose 35 points just like that. In which case, I feel like this is actually maybe going to get a price buff in that they might reduce the price of it because it will be very brittle in the field. Then to follow up in the Recon tab, we have the M8s. They come in later on, like I said before, to claim all the glory. Not that you'd probably bring the M8s in this division. You're probably more likely to just bring everything else but the M8s. Maybe not the sidecars, but yeah, that would probably be what your Recon tab looks like, unless you don't prefer the snipers, which I don't really think they're worth bringing in at the moment. Anyway, let's move on to the infantry tab. Infantry is very cool as well. In Phase A, we have the FFI CDP, which have the 3HE, 1HE, and then 2HE, a standard sort of command squad, nice and cheap. Then we have the Jedber, which are 5 points more, but they work much better at close range. They have the 9HE with the 3 Thompson machine guns. They have the 20HE on the TNT, and they also have 3 smoke grenades, which makes them very good for keeping themselves alive, which is extremely important. Whereas like the FFI CDP, for example, don't have any smoke grenades. So if the FFI CDP become under direct line of fire, then you're going to lose that squad, whereas the Jedburgh can like hide themselves and run away, which is really, really good. Also, because they're 2-star, their command radius is going to be nice and big, which really helps you out. Then we have the FFI Rallies. These guys are sort of defection forces. I believe they're Russians that defected, hence why they have the PPSH 41 like Osttruppen, who decided to fight for the French resistance instead of the Germans. And they have the Kar 98s, the MG34, and the Faustpatron. They have a strength of 8, which isn't fantastic, but for what the armaments that they have, it's not too bad. At 300 meter range, they have 6 HE, and at 100 meter range, they have 6 HE. So a nice all-round squad with an AT. A little bit light on the HE overall, but they are 1-star veterans and a decent price. Just be nice if they were actually 10 strength instead of 8. Then we have the FFI CDP in a captured half-track, the 251 with all the FFI markings on it. I love these FFI markings. I just think they make stuff look really cool and authentic. And then we have the MG34, captured MG34. Again, looks really cool with the 2 resistance fighters on it. And then we have the FFI Hotchkiss, which is a pretty damn awesome machine gun. 7 accuracy, 9 HE, will absolutely demolish infantry in the open, but pretty expensive for the 40 points. Then we also have, finally for Phase A, the FFI Rallies in the 251 half-track. And these might be a quite nice choice in the early phases. But moving into Phase B, we get some pretty damn awesome infantry in the Demi-Brigade SAS, with the SAS squads actually arriving. So you have a card of 8 SAS Grouper FM. The availability on this card is probably what makes it worth bringing. They're also 15 points apiece, and if you compare these to something like Battlegroup, Battlegroup are generally 10 points apiece, but you pay 5 points more, and you're getting a 2-star SAS with 8 HE at close range, and they have 2 smoke grenades as well. So very, very interesting unit. You could definitely double these up very easily. Like by that I mean bring in 2 at a time and have them work together, and then you'll have 16 HE on target with 2 2-star SAS teams, and that's pretty damn strong, honestly. Then the other thing is they have a quite nice HE at 200 meter range as well, which is 5 HE as well. So it can work at a sort of short to medium range. At longer ranges, Bren guns never really do too well. Moving on, we have the Sas Command, which has the Piat, rather cool, and they have 3 smoke grenades, which allows them to get in and out of trouble, with 12 HE on their main guns as well. Now, compared to other command squads, allied command squads, these guys have 4 submachine guns, which is really, really strong. So these will do well in like close-up combat, although you will have to be careful of their strength, only being 4, of course. Then finally in Phase B, we have the SAS Chasseurs Para, which is the paratroopers. These guys have 17 HE at 100 meter range. They also have 2 smoke grenades, which allows them to get into that range, and will work very well around towns, and will have that smoke available to cover them in the open as well. They furthermore have gammon bombs, which allows them to engage armored targets 100 meter range. So yeah, keep them at the 100 meter range and you're going to be laughing. These guys are absolutely fantastic for 25 points apiece. Insane squads, insane squads. Then we have, to finish off in Phase C, armored rifles arriving. Quite high availability on these cards, so I would expect to see maybe like 1 card of these at the end. The initial forces will likely be like Jedburgh with the FFI Rallies, and then we have maybe some MGs, but then all of the SAS, and that will probably be more like it. So that's what we're going to be going for the infantry tab anyway for now. Now, just so you know, guys, this isn't sort of me showing you guys what to take necessarily. I'm just giving you guys a general idea of what I think it's going to look like. But I wouldn't take my word for it, since things are very much likely to change in the future. Anyway, moving into the tank tab, we have the Hotchkiss 35 and the Hotchkiss 39. All of these tanks we've seen before, Panzer III. This is a B1, not a B2. And then we have the Panzer IV H. So all very interesting tanks with FFI markings. Things to note really about this Phase A is that you have a Panzer IV, and that is actually pretty damn strong. Make sure this has a command nearby, and it will do you wonders. Also, this Char B1, very similar stats to the B2, but it has the command star there, which is also very nice for it supporting infantry. So there's that to look out for. Relatively slow off-road, do be careful of that speed. It may get it caught out quite easily. But can definitely help you in towns by using the speed on road. One thing you will also notice about the tank tab is there is no tanks or no tank availability in Phase B. You're going to have to rely solely on your Phase A tanks and then bring in your Phase C reinforcements from the Americans. So depending on what you decide to bring, you're probably going to end up having some M4A 376s in Phase C, which are very good units, honestly. Then we have the support tab. Support has the FFI Kubel MG to start, which is just again a stolen Kubel MG. Then we have the FFI Traction Command, so this is just a command car, no armament on it though. Then we have the stolen DMA logistics trucks. Then we have a very interesting unit, the SAS Jeep. This thing has 2-star veterancy and 24 HE that this can put on target. I've seen this kill half tracks, and it is insane. It also has a stabilizer and 105 km/h on road speed, which is crazy. So you can imagine these like zooming down the road and just like piling through a bunch of infantry very easily indeed. Good support for towns. Obviously unarmored, so can get taken out relatively easily by even light arms fire, but keep them at range, the 600 meter range, and you'll be good. Then we have the GMCs later on, which is the American supply arriving. Okay, moving on to the anti-tank. More captured units. We have the FFI Partisan Start. These are basically your sort of AT infantry squads, but they only have a Panzerfaust with the 150 meter range, so not fantastic honestly, but 10 points apiece I guess makes them nice and cheap. They do come in the traction. Then we have the FFI Pack 38s, which are the captured Pack 38s. We have captured Pack 40s, all good stuff. But one big thing to note about the anti-tank tab of the Demi-Brigade SAS is the Jagdpanzer IV. This comes in Phase A. This is going to rival things like the Beuter Firefly. Absolutely insane tank to have in Phase A, honestly. Will demolish enemy armor very easily in Phase A, depending on what you come up against. 1,200 meter range is also a big bonus, so absolutely awesome. And I love the paint job with the FFI markings. Very, very cool indeed. Okay, we have next the Piats. Nobody really trusts a Piat, but you have these squads available, 4-man squads with a quite decent HE at close range. So I reckon these could probably hold their own in like a town quite nicely, but you probably don't have the slots to actually rely on them, I guess. Later on, you do have access to M5 guns and M10s, but since you have the M4A3s in the tank tab, it's unlikely that you're ever going to really bring an M10 in Phase C. You're more likely to see M5 guns rolling in at that phase, which will be a 2-star M5 gun with a command nearby, which is actually pretty damn good. So yeah, save some space for some M5 guns in the late game, then bring in your Jagdpanzer and maybe the Pack 40s and the Pack 38s in the early game, and that should do you nicely. One thing you will notice though, no extra AT guns in Phase B. Do be careful. I reckon Armour can definitely take advantage of this division in Phase B if they've taken care of your AT guns in Phase A. Let's move on to the anti-air tab. We have the Citroen Hotchkiss, which is awesome. Just a truck here with the FFI markings again. And I think Bet said on my stream, the World War II version of a technical. Very cool indeed. We also have the Canon CA25, which is some captured German AA, which has 8 HE at 1,000 meter range. Honestly, the cost of these is really cheap for what they are. I would definitely recommend to make use of these cannons. Then we have the M16 MGMCs and CGMCs coming in Phase C. Again, no more anti-air in Phase B. So yeah, do be wary of that. Then we move on to the artillery. In the artillery, we have the FI Mortar, which is 2 French resistance, got a metal pipe and decided to put some explosives in it. This looks very, very funny indeed. At 700 meter range, nothing to write home about. Then we have the SAS Mortar 3-inch. These guys are 2-star veterans and they come in Phase B, but definitely something that you're probably going to end up using. You probably still have the 2-inch mortars in Phase A just because it's the only artillery that you have access to in the early phases. But these 3-inch mortars in Phase B are very nice as well. You could also choose to bring in the naval battery, 381mm off map, but I'm not sure if it takes a slot over maybe some M7s in Phase C. By Phase C, M21 mortar carriers are outclassed by the M7s, so you may as well be bringing in the M7s by that phase. Also, you will notice the income, so relying on Phase C units isn't unseen in this division. Moving into the air tab, finally, we have one of the brand new units, the Westland Lysander. Very slow unit, 150 km/h speed, not very fast at all. But one interesting thing about this is it drops 4 bombs at a time. So you can fire position this multiple times and it will just drop like 4 bombs, 4 bombs, 4 bombs. You could also queue the fire position command so that it does like a bombing run. But basically it will drop 4 bombs every time you give it an attack order, which is very cool. Otherwise it will just stay flying about and provide you with recon. So awesome little unit in Phase A. If your opponent doesn't invest in a fighter or any AA, you can have some good fun with this. But moving on, we have the Spitfire Mark 9. This comes with the 10 HE power bomb in Phase A. We've got the Tempests in there, and we've also got a P-47 Thunderbolt to support as well. And then moving into Phase B, more Tempests, more P-47s, and then the Mosquitoes in Phase C. So not really too much to talk about. I would probably recommend to have the Spitfires in Phase A because those 10 HE power bombs can be quite nice for bombing out enemy AT guns. Then in Phase B, you probably need some proper fighters. Maybe bring in the 2-star Thunderbolt if you want to kill some armor targets. If not, then use the Thunderbolts for lighter targets. And then Mosquitoes will probably do you well as well. And that's your lot. That's the Demi-Brigade SAS. So I didn't actually add anything for the support tab, but either way, there are some of the units that are probably worth noting in the Demi-Brigade SAS. This isn't a replication of a decent battle group, by the way. You probably definitely want some supply in the division and you'll find a slot for that somewhere. Maybe get rid of one of these Mosquitoes, but anyway, that's not what this video is about. It's all about just having a quick look through the units. And one thing to note at the end here is just, again, the income. In Phase A it's okay, in Phase B it's one of the worst divisions for income, and then in Phase C it's one of the best. So your Phase B is going to be very, very hairy for this division, and you're going to want to make sure that you have made your ground in Phase A so you can hold it in Phase B and then absolutely reinforce the crap out of yourself in Phase C. Awesome division, really, really nice flavour in this division, having both the FFI and the SAS grouped as one. But that's all for now, guys. Hopefully you've enjoyed the Battlegroup overview. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.